I think singles is so fun. All right, let's just look at this replay, right? When you look at my team, this team on the bottom here, when you look at my team, this team on the bottom here, what do you think of me as a player, right? I have a Hisuian Typhlosion, I got a Rotom Wash, a Blissey, a Corviknight, an Azelf, and a Zenta. This is a Gen 4 team. Like, this is a Gen 4 team. Here's my Infernape, here's my Rotom, here's my Blissey, here's my Scarm, here's my Azelf, and this is a Garchomp, right? I really feel like this is the sole successor to how Gen 4 singles was played, right? I really, really do feel that. I feel it with every fiber of my being. I don't even think half these Pokemon are like OU anymore. Zenta's OU, but Blissey's like UU. I don't think Rotom is. Let's actually check. Let's check and see like what tier these Pokemon are. I guess like we could just type like a new, let's see, new, go to OU. Right, let's see what tier all these Pokemon are in. So we have Zamazenta, right? It's in OU, the base form, right? Then we have Azelf. Azelf is an RU, and Azelf's arguably the best Pokemon on my team. We have Corviknight. OU, yeah, standard. Blissey. Blissey's an NU. What is that? What is an NU? What? Blissey should just be able to win every single game down there. They should never be able to break that Pokemon. Rotom. Rotom washes OU. Good respect's good. That's fair. And then Hisuian Typhlosion. RU. God, and there's still like one more Pokemon that we're missing, I think. No, that's all of them, right? So we have like a ragtag group of like RU and NU Pokemon. And we're playing pretty high on the ladder. This guy we're playing against is 1688. That's like a top 500 world player. And we're in the upper 15s. And I just want to show you guys how much like I love this format. Let's just go into a game. Like, this is just a replay, right? So I lead Rotom. Normally I like to lead with Typhlosion, but against this team, because we can pin things like Tinglu, you can pin things like the Treads and stuff like that, I opt to lead off with the Rotom. And note that this is a Choice Scarf Rotom, and I actually think, like, saving the fact that you have a Choice Scarf, like, I could just click Volt Switch or click Thunderbolt into that Weavile, but that Weavile in singles is actually beat up, and you think, beat up, that's not that strong. Well, if it's like a choice-banded Weavile, beat-up's going to hit 6 times in singles. Rotom would have just died, or whatever mana I would have brought him would have just been like super dead. And it would have revealed my Scarf, which would have made it a lot harder to like use the Scarf later to pick up a KO, like a sneaky KO on like the Iron Treads or Landorus. So I just take the hard swap to the Corviknight and basically tell my opponent like, hey, I'm probably not Scarf Rotom, so they'll disrespect it later. So just going to Corviknight, they actually take a double swap back into Tinglu. So they probably thought I was going for either a Wisp, or B, like a Thunderbolt, so they go into the Tinglu, or like a Volt Switch or something, which is a very standard play. And Tinglu is also very good against Rotom, just because basically this tells me as well that this Tinglu is not like one of those Earthquake, like damage-dealing Tinglus. It's more of like a Spike, Stealth Rock, Whirlwind, Runation Tinglu, so I just know that now. So I go to Corviknight, I taunt the Tinglu, obviously. They can't use Spikes, which is awesome. I U-turn them, do some decent damage. We're going to be scouting for leftovers in this situation. I go right out to my Zenta. Now, normally, I don't like to bring up my Zenta until I already have, like, a set-up game where I have my rocks up, I have damage on most of their mons, and most of their items, and then it just sets up an Iron Defense or a sub and just cleans up. Very similar to, like, Swords Dance sub Garchomp from, like, Gen 4 and Gen 5. But I have to bring out Zenta early because I need to condition them into like doing a couple other things. This is one of my only times. If I can actually break this Tinglu, it's going to make using my Rotom and Typhlosion easier. So even if it costs me my Zenta, we're going to want to try and get this out. What they're probably going to do is swap out to one of their other mons like an Amorous or Landorus, and that can be fine. Again, I'm not assuming a player that's like 1688 is going to like fumble the bag and just like let their Tinglu die, but we need to get them to reveal a little bit more of their info. So we swapped it on Runation. That sucks. It's not the end of the world. I decided to just actually go for, I wanted to see what they were going to switch to. I decided to Iron Defense in case they swapped to Landorus, because like Landorus is a viable swap in here. Enamorus is the correct swap in. And, you know, I was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with this Enamorus? Like, I want to see what your plan is here. I would say this is definitely me playing in the back foot, though, because they have been pinning me and forcing me to switch to react to them. But you can see they haven't really picked up any KOs yet. and I'm getting to see a lot more of like their playstyle. Draining Kiss tells me they have setup moves, things like Calm Mind, things like Iron Defense. We see the Calm Mind right here. I go to the Corv, I U-turn. I'm surprised that I was actually still faster than this thing, even though it's a really slow guy. I go to Rotom, they go for an Iron Defense, and they have Iron Defense and Calm Mind on that thing, right? So that means they have Iron Defense, Calm Mind, Draining Kiss. I don't know what the last move is. I'm assuming it's some sort of weird Terra Blast. It could be something else weird, but I think we're okay. And yeah, basically, it might be like Mystical Fire for Goldango. It's probably a good idea. But anyways, they decide to swap out. I go for the trick. I was trying to just like trap that thing up. And so, you know, I tricked and gave an already boosted Iron Treads a Choice Scarf. This is definitely a game where I'm big losing, right? And so you have to start Hydro Pumping. And you think like, why am I Hydro Pumping? I'm fighting against a guy that literally has like a Volcanion like right here. Volcanion actually like doesn't want to swap into the Rotom because especially now that I've lost my Choice Scarf, I just swap over and just using Thunderbolts. So Volcanion's like a really, really good mon, but not that much you can do. You see, I just hit a bunch of Hydros, and you got to lean into those sometimes. Sometimes you do got to lean into those Hydros. We still know that the beat up's coming, so we go to the Corviknight. I think it's so weird that beat up doesn't make contact. I just think it's so weird. Like I have that Rocky helmet. I have it. And you can see, look how much damage that is to my full HP defense Corv. It is absolutely ridiculous. So we just pop a U-turn. We could have roosted there, but I wanted to repin this Volcanion easy. And note that I go to Azelf here. I go to Azelf instead of going to Rotom. If I go to Rotom, we get the same sort of pin happen where like they go to the Tinglu, they're going to get some spikes out of it. This guy's still a little bit of a problem. If I miss the Hydro, we lose the game. I think Azelf's a much better play. I have to start getting up some hazards so I can actually start putting pressure on the Weavile, putting pressure on the Enamorus. We don't know if it's heavy duty boots yet. So I think it's a really good idea to go Azelf in this situation because it's going to force them out, right? It's going to force them out. They swap in, take a lot of damage from Psychic. And remember, this guy's holding a Choice Scarf, so we can actually abuse that. We go into Corviknight. We get knockoff on our Rocky Helmet. It's not really that big of a deal, but we should be able to like leverage our advantage here. They go back to the Corv. We go for a free Roost. We're going to have to use this because we always want to use this guy as our pivot from Lando and Iron Treads. We then hard switch out to Blissey, and they miss a Fire Spin, but it's not important. I actually don't really think that like Fire Spin Magma Storm tech is amazing against Blissey unless you're using Sub first. If you're using Sub and you can get that up, yeah, it might be kind of hard for Blissey to do something, but realistically, this Volcanion coming here is now a liability. It's paralyzed. Yes, it's fire spinning, but if it ever swaps, I'm not trapped either, and like I do good damage with Seismic Toss. They don't really do anything with like Steam Eruptions and like Fire Spins, and they could have all the different sort of sets they want, but like Blissey basically just got free rocks out of this, and there are tools they have at their disposal to get rid of these rocks, things like Rapid Spins from the Iron Treads, which we're potentially going to see right here, but I also have good swaps for this, right? We're going to get that guy pretty low now, and then now, what's Blissey weak against? Things like fighting attacks, and we know Rapid Spin's probably coming. Well, good luck with that one, Chuck. We're going into Hisuian Typhlosion. Remember, you are Choice Scarf, so if you go for one of those moves like a Rapid Spin here, it's not going to work, and you're going to be potentially losing a Mon. You swap it to Volcanion. I make the read to go for Shadow Ball here instead of like a Fire Attack. Fire Attack would be 4th resisted. Shadow Ball is good against every one of these. Weavile's low. All these other Mons don't really want to eat like a Choice Scarf Shadow Ball. So Shadow Ball is going to be able to repin this Volcanion. Now I've unlocked the ability to actually use as many water attacks as I want, so my Rotom's freeing up a little bit of pressure. We see the Lando come out here. Remember, I'm Choice Scarfed as well, so I have to swap back to Corv, which remember we roosted earlier to make sure we could always have more health. We have a good amount of health on this Corv. They get up a Rocks here, which I was very surprised. I was like, oh, yeah, that's going to make this hard. So I have to spend the next 3 or 4 turns getting rid of these rocks. I come out to my Rotom, and then I surprisingly get KO'd by a Rock Slide. Now, I was surprised this Lando, first of all, had enough attack investment to KO me with Rock Slide. And second of all, it was fast enough to KO. It was just a full speed attack Jolly Lando because I'm using a full speed Timid Rotom. So very surprising, but it is Orb. And that's like, you know, that's where we saw the Orb and stuff like that. And we're like, okay, that makes complete sense. Orb, Jolly Lando would get that KO. So at this point, they're just trying to go for like a bunch of different things. We actually have to defog away these rocks. And I really do think that I've stabilized, right? But this Enamorus is going to be a problem. And what I really like about singles, right? What I really love about singles as a game is that I started out this game losing, and then I lost for a while. And then I slowly, over the course of, you know, double-digit amount of turns, clawed my way back into this game to where it's kind of even, and I'm slightly dictating play. And we're 30 turns in. Like, doesn't that mean that, like, doesn't that seem like it's such a deeper game than just, like, herp, derp, like, band, Shen Power, like, flinch this or crit that, or Chi-Yu misses a Heat Wave and the game's over? Like, am I the only one that thinks that, like, this is, like, actually what, like, outplaying an opponent is over, like, the course of, like, 30 turns and we're not even done with the game? I just think it's so cool. Going to this, they see the Enamorous here. I'm deciding to go all in on this Enamorous. I go with the Fire Terror. They go with the Water Terror, perfect counter. So we're now back to a situation where they do a lot of bad stuff to us. Now, I could go for a crit Eruption here. And I know they're going to click that Draining Kiss. I know it's going to do a lot. I have to low-key respect Terra Water as well. I obviously will not get the KO here with an Eruption. So I decide to switch to Azelf, which is such a weird play. I switch to Azelf. Yeah, they do a lot of damage to the Draining Kiss, go back up to full. But Azelf is a really cool Pokemon here for a couple different reasons. It, first of all, forces them out to switch because they don't really know exactly what Azelf's supposed to do. They still want to get those rocks up. They don't need to stay in there at full. So, like, they don't have to stay in there. There's no reason for them to stay in there. And, yeah, I go for the Thunderbolt. It doesn't get the KO. Literally never lucky here. And so we're now into a situation where we're into, like, the fourth stage of this game, right? Where we're trading hazards. On turn 35, we're swapping out. I have to take Spikes damage here, which sucks. And they go for a second set of Spikes. We really want to pin this Tinglu. I still have a really big Eruption. So, you know, they come in with the Treads. They take a little bit of damage. They're going to fodder this guy to Eruption. They're going to be re-bringing out their Enamorous. And this game is still, like, anyone's game. If anything, like, I feel a little bit threatened by this Enamorous because I'm really running out of options to threaten it. I swap to an Azelf, read the Calm Mind, and this is where I feel my absolute, like, this is the tech to beat the Enamorous. We go for the Encore. And I would like it if you Calm Minded a bunch of times. And yeah, I don't really do that much damage if you get to, like, +6, but I really do feel that, like, this is the thing. And also, I cannot hit that Tinglu. I have Thunderbolt, Psychic, Encore, and Stealth. I cannot hit this Tinglu. Every single time we want to go into this, we're both going to have to take a mixture of different hazards. And with them having, like, heavy-duty boots and Enamorous, this is not a good situation for me. I'm back into the losing situation here. I can then Encore them into Whirlwind, which is better than nothing, but that's a lot of damage I don't want to take. And, like, at this point, Typhlosion's Eruption's getting a little bit weaker. It's still barely stronger, but one more tick of hazards and it's not, right? So at this point, Corviknight's a really lucky mon for me to come in with. We can just get rid of all the hazards. They actually fodder the Weave Out, which is good. And I go for the Taunt because I didn't want any more shenanigans happening. Corviknight versus Enamorous, and I'm sitting here. I roost this first turn because I actually want to see what they're trying to do, and they went for the Draining Kiss. I didn't want to do anything weird. I didn't even need to defog yet because I actually still want hazards up against their Lando if possible. So I decided to defog it this turn, but they start going for the Calm Minds, and so I'm sitting here thinking, like, I'm gonna U-turn, and if I go to this Azelf and they actually attack me here, I probably do lose. And they actually Calm Minded again in front of that Corv. So we are locked into an Encore battle here. Soon we're locked into an Encore battle here. You know it's going to be coming. That's my second Encore thing. I usually, you only get 8. You only get 8. So we repivot back out. This is Zenta coming back out to then repin this Tinglu. Remember, Zenta's not that great against something like Enamorous, but because they Terastallize, we actually do decent damage. So to make the right play, they finally do go into the Landorus to check the Zenta, which was the right play the whole time, I feel. I really thought about Iron Defense in there. I really, really did, but I wanted to check the Tinglu. And you can see we're back into this hazard game. We're turned 50 into this game, and it's still anyone's game. Like, both of us have viable options here. I need to get rid of those hazards so my Typhlosion can actually be played correctly. U-turn, and we go into Blissey here instead of Azelf, because I did not want to risk the Draining Kiss, right? I did not want to risk it, and so we go for a Thunder Wave, and we're going for a little bit of RNG, baby. And you can see they're just Calm Minded up. And so by going to this Blissey, that does a couple things. First of all, it's nice to get that Thunder Wave. But second of all, we want to condition them to thinking, like, okay, I'm just going to try and, like, wall you out with Blissey and use Seismic Toss, which is how I walled another one of their Pokemon on the team. They're Volcanion. So if I can condition you into thinking you can just go to +6 with this Calm Mind, I get a free swap into my Azelf, right? So we get the free swap into Azelf. Obviously, they will be Calm Minding that turn, or they were paralyzed, but they were probably Calm Minding, right? So we get the Encore lock, right? It's now Azelf, who has used half the Encores versus this guy. We need to crit. We need to crit a Thunderbolt. If we don't crit the Thunderbolt, we're not going to have that great of a time. We're not going to have that great of a time. So we're going for it. Remember, every, like, 2 turns, we have to reapply that Encore to lock them into Calm Mind. If they were to run out of Calm Minds, they would be freed from Encore, but since Calm Mind has, like, a ton of power points, like, it's never really going to run out. So you can see we're in a pretty good spot here. We're just waiting for the crit. Just playing for the crit, where you have 3 Encores left, and it's still anybody's game. I would say at this point, I get a chance to hit with, like, what? How many Thunderbolts? I get a chance to hit with, like, 12 Thunderbolts, and we need 1 to crit to win the game. Yeah, I don't think that's, like, a terrible chance. Also, This person's also being super stubborn. We're going for these encores. Every single time I encore, they could swap the Ting Lu. This is just as much like them deciding to not get, like them hoping they don't get crit, as much as like they could be wasting my encore PP, swipping to the Ting Lu, going for re-hazards. They think they're set here and they think they have enough to win the game, but you can already tell where this one's going. You know I'm going to get the crit. This is my last encore, right? This is the last encore coming up here. Next turn. You can see we actually do a little bit of damage. And even if I do lose the Azelfair, I don't just lose the game. They are only at half. I can send out weaker mons like Zenta that would do like 40% with body press probably and be fine. But you can see, like, we get to go for the last encore, right? And yeah, I'm out of encores. And the encore's going to end, right? The encore's going to end. And we did some good damage, right? We did some good damage. Where is it? Where's the ending encore? This is the last one, right? All right. Here we go. Encore ends. Last Thunderbolt. Critical hit. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. 70 turn game. 70 turn game. Right? Yeah, I had to crit in Thunderbolt, right? But we still had a bunch of options. We still had Zenta. They were still paralyzed. We still had Typhlosion go for Shadow Balls and stuff like that. We still had Blissey. There were still definitely options to win, but I just feel like singles is such a fun format that can teach you so much about understanding the information that your opponent's trying to tell you, right? If you go back and take a look at this game, we understood based off of their lead, if they would lead Weavile in this situation, there's 2 Weavile sets. So it's like a weird fake out Weavile set, which isn't, viable, hasn't been viable for like 10 years, and the like choice band beat up set. That's very obvious. So we can tell their Weavile's item is a choice band, as opposed to like a sash based off its lead preference versus what my team says that it does. Pretty obvious. We could tell that, what is it? With how they played their Ting Lu, right? This Ting Lu, because it swapped in front of a Rotom, was not afraid of Wisp, which means it's not a damage doing Ting Lu. It's more of like a Spikes Hazard Ting Lu. So being able to like take into account what your opponent's trying to tell you about what their team does and how they think their team stacks up against yours, that's such a valuable resource that I think a lot of people don't really value when going and looking at how to play competitive Pokemon, how to play singles, how to play VGC. And I just think that more people should play singles because games like this are a lot of fun. I actually yesterday, I played 5 more singles games. I won 5 in a row. And we could look at those sometime as well if people want me to break those down. But yeah, dude, this is such a fun format. This team is bad. My team is like actually bad, but I'm just so comfortable with it that I can kind of make stuff work. So hopefully you guys like this little replay. I mean, it was fun for me.